Aloha.
Aloha, everybody. Welcome to our podcast, I guess.
I'm Chris,
I'm Annika.
and this is our podcast.
Oh,
To you.
Yeah. We're married, clearly. And
I don't know if it's clear.
I think it's pretty clear.
You're not wearing a ring. I'm not wearing a ring. It's not clear.
Well, we haven't been outside for a very long time, so we're not wearing a ring, but married. And I'm a college professor. I work at a college in Hawaii, which is where we live, in Honolulu, and I mostly focus on teaching. So I'm also finishing up my PhD, and have been for the last 4 or 5 years. So good luck to me. And yeah, what do you do, Chris?
I am not a professional crocheter. I am a recruiter, and I help people find new jobs all around the country. So I do that remotely from here in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii. We live in paradise. It's true. Mm-hmm. It's very warm. So you might ask, why am I wearing a scarf?
It does look like the postcards, but please don't come here right now. So,
If you get tested, you can come here.
No.
Just follow the rules.
Okay, well, Chris says you can come here. I say please wait for another year or two.
And that's pretty standard. This is like a 50-50 thing right now. Yeah. That's kind of everyone's opinion.
Yes.
It's like 50-50.
Our marriage pretty accurately reflects popular opinion at the moment.
Diversity.
Yes, in every way. Sorry. Yeah, so I guess I should mention our podcast is mostly about fiber stuff, crocheting stuff. Neither of us knit. We tried knitting. It did not go well. Especially did not go well for me. Chris actually made a few stitches. I didn't make any. So we gave that up. Yeah, I don't like it when he's better than me at things, so he's not allowed to knit anymore. But we do crochet, and that's what we'll be talking about for the most part. And then we'll also sort of, because, my job is not just my job, it's also the thing that I really love, I'll probably talk a little bit about psychology stuff. I should probably also mention I'm a psychology professor, but my area of expertise is something called cognitive neuroscience, or cognitive psychology is fine. And so I have an enormous library of studies and different things that I would love to talk about, and you're a captive audience, so which is my favorite type. So we'll definitely talk. We'll definitely talk about that a little bit. And then Chris went to school for business, so he's kind of fascinated by all things economic and financial, I guess. So he'll be chatting about that in future episodes. Today's sort of my turn. But yeah, I think that's probably enough right now for introductions. Anything I forgot, babe?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so then we'll talk about unfinished objects, I guess. So I'm actually working on one at the moment. This one is a shawl for my mother-in-law, who likes red, and it's actually kind of blowing out a little bit in the... Oh, that's better. It is the same red that is her sorority colors. So... what's the name of her sorority?
Delta Sigma Theta.
Delta Sigma Theta. So this was supposed to be her Christmas gift a year or two ago. And it will be probably her birthday gift this year. So it's a pretty accurate representation of the color, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of putting a little elephants along the border, because elephants are the main animal for the sorority. So yeah, that's just a very simple, let me see if I can bring it a little closer so you can actually see the stitches there. So this is Tunisian crochet, which is the crochet that most people think looks like knitting. And that's one of my unfinished objects. So the other one here is, let's see. being worked in the round, so it's a little bit unwieldy. But this is a Tunisian crochet sweater, or will be, so that's the bottom. Let's see if I can get the cables. Is it showing the cables?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So it's like a cobalt blue tweed. In fact, I think the color is called Cobalt. And it has these little white flecks. I can just kind of hold it a little bit closer so you can kind of see. Yeah. So this is kind of my sweater for the 2 days where it gets below 70 degrees in Hawaii.
Seriously.
Yeah, we've already had one, so I really only have one left.
That's true.
So I got to hurry this up. Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking maybe I'm making this up. This doesn't have a pattern. But I'm kind of thinking that when I get a little bit higher, I'll kind of split for a V-neck and then maybe have the cable run on either side of the V-neck. It's just an idea. And then short sleeves because, like I said, it gets below 70, but it doesn't really get below 60. So occasionally it was like 68, 58 degrees last year before.
Burr.
Yeah, we basically had a meltdown. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. But it's being held in Mrs. Brown's bag. This is my favorite color, as you can tell, because I'm wearing it. And all right, so those are my unfinished objects that I want to talk about anyways. So I think maybe we'll talk a little bit about Chris's many-month finished object, his only unfinished object. And this is going to get its own section. It's going to be called the scarf. And you will be seeing a lot of the scarf in our podcasts. So Chris, you want to talk a little bit about your scarf?
First, I don't like the way you're digging at my scarf, which I'm very proud of. And while, it is moving along at a pace that is not as quick as your, pro crochet, super fast stitch, situation, I'm super happy about its progress thus far and excited to see it completed in the time it takes to complete it. So this is my scarf that I'm making for a good friend of mine. And I'm
my sister's fiance, Ian.
Ian, who is also a groomsman at our wedding. He was very handsome, but he's taken. And so I'm working on it, and we're gonna get it done. And it's simple crochet stitch, mostly.
Tunisian simple stitch, TSS.
And it's coming right along, and so you'll be watching my progress. And I should mention that it's quite beautiful and that it's coming along.
You know what we should do? You remember those math problems where it's like Frances traveled 60 miles and it took her an hour? Like, what was her speed? If you divide, we should do that for the months, that it's taken you, and then divide that by the number of stitches. You could have stitches per minute. It'd be like 0.00001.
That's true. We could do that.
All right, so
we could do a little math based on how many stitches I do in the episode or something, and then we could compare my rate of speed to...
I might do that. We'll see how I'm feeling after we're
something.
finished podcasting. I might add that to the screen right now, if I can also figure that out during editing. So we'll see. So that sort of wraps up the scarf. And then I guess we can show a little bit about some finished objects. And I don't really have any finished objects at the moment because I gave them all away already. They were all Christmas gifts, but I had sort of a sweater extravaganza this year. So every year I get it in my head that I should make every single member of my family, and my family is not very small, a sweater. And so I know that I make this plan because I make this plan in January for Christmas, which is in December. But then for some reason, this plan doesn't actually sort of take seed and become action until November. And so Chris has to deal with me panicking over making these sweaters every single year. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking this year maybe everybody gets like, a pom-pom. So this is the sweater. And let me see if I can hold it up a little bit closer. It's not bad. So there's cables running down the sides. Oop, that's probably pretty loud. Sorry, right into the microphone. And it's called Midwestern Warmth. I'm struggling to remember the designer. And I worked on it over the span of many, many, many months. And again, that was for my grandfather. And it has sort of a cool shawl collar. So he has that. It fits him really well, and he's been wearing it recently. And then a very simple Tunisian beanie from one of my best friends. I'll just show a couple of things. Actually, I should probably talk about what I'm wearing too. This is a better picture of what I have on right now. So this is actually a combination. The yoke is a standard crochet. It's front post double crochet and then standard double crochet in between. And then the body is actually Tunisian knit stitch. So it looks sort of knit. It's not. The whole thing is crocheted. And then the bottom is actually the same as the top on the yoke.
And it looks great on her.
My own built-in cheerleader.
For the record.
Yeah, so I'm liking that. And then this, I'll just show maybe one or two more. I can save these for future episodes. But this one is one I was particularly proud of. It was one that I gave to my younger sister, Gemma. And it was called Into the Woods, I think, cardigan. And I should have the designer names pulled up, but of course I don't. So I will look for those later. All right, so I think that'll just show those couple of objects for now. And then, Chris, did you want to talk about what you're wearing?
I am wearing this crocheted scarf. And it was made by Ian, who we were just talking about. You may have heard. And it's really cute. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a model in it.
Yes, Chris is a big fan of the scarf. So, and I think Ian was very proud of himself. I just want to point out, this is something my sister pointed out too, that Ian actually had only crocheted for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month when he started. And so if you look at this bottom, also a very beautiful bottom, but it's crocheted in moss stitch, also called the linnet or the granite stitch. And if you look at the bottom and then compare it to the other edge, we have a nice little progression of Ian's skills. So we've got kind of loose, maybe a little bit less even here at the bottom. And then by the end, he was like clearly a pro. Mm-hmm. So it got very even and tight. And yeah, I just thought I would point that out. So I think you're going to get sort of a similar progression in the scarf that he's making for Ian. So
definitely.
Yeah, so they'll be matching.
Yeah.
Which will be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ian's favorite color is blue, so I think he'll really like this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Can't wait to get it over to him,
So then the next couple things that I'll talk about, let's see, I think I'll talk about stash expansion. So I've been on a Lion Brand kick recently. Chris is nodding because it's about half of the boxes that arrive at our house.
Kick. Explain kick.
And by kick, I mean enormous shopping binge. That was not just, I want to blame the pandemic for this, but like I shopped for too much yarn long before we were required to stay at home. So this is not a pandemic issue. This is like and it's not an issue either. Chris is completely, despite how he looks right now, Chris is very supportive of my hobby.
Oh, yeah. It's good to have hobbies.
He really is. And he's actually exceedingly supportive, which I really am thankful for because it makes me super happy.
Your pieces are magnificent, usually.
Thank you. I don't like the shade at the end there, but I'll take it. So I just wanted to show you, I'm not going to show you everything I bought. Maybe I'll save it for the future. But this was one thing. These are a couple things that I bought. These are sort of the summer things that I'm planning on making. So I bought 2 different shades, pardon my reach, of Coboo. which is Lion Brand Cotton and Bamboo line. And I do buy from indie dyers as well, so I'll kind of show that at some point. Let's see. So those were Coboo, cotton and bamboo. This is actually the yarn that I'm currently wearing. It's Mako Cotton. And Mako Cotton, it's named for the area that it's from. It's from Egypt, so it's technically Egyptian cotton. It is extremely soft.
Oh my gosh. It's officially Egyptian cotton, unlike some scandals that have gone on in recent years. Oh my gosh. Y'all need to get some of this.
You'd be a great infomercial actor. Mm-hmm. So, yes, Mako Cotton. I'm very excited about that one.
Quick question. Who's this going to?
I think that one was originally supposed to be yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So nice. Chris really wants a jersey.
Oh. I don't want to stop.
Well, you're fluffing the yarn, so you've got to stop.
I just shaved, so it's fine.
And then this one is Nuboo, sorry. Yeah, and they have a couple of different bamboo lines. I should have shown the other one too. I think they have like 2 or 3 different 100% bamboo. The other one is from rayon, which is also a form of fiber that comes from bamboo. And then this one is lyocell, which I've never had before. But it's kind of interesting because the rayon one is very shiny, just like this one is. But it's very smooth. And this one is soft, but kind of crunchy. So it's a very different texture. And I think might be kind of nice in like a top, to give like a top some texture. So that's sort of my idea for that. I do have a bunch of those. And then...
Wait, you're not going to share that one? So that I can remark?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. This one's nice too. I like this one too. It's very soft. It's softer than you would think, like bamboo, tree would be, versus sheep.
Yeah.
It's really soft.
Not a lot of people squishing bamboo, but I mean, when you do, you get cool yarn. So.
Oh, I'm so glad you got that one.
Pima Cotton. Been on a cotton bender lately. So this one is kind of a stone color. It's called stone, so appropriate word to describe it. It's like slate. It's like a very, very light gray, almost cream, but not quite. Mm-hmm. So that was also going to be a top as well. We'll see.
It's like a vanilla bean color.
Yeah, kind of. If vanilla beans were gray,
yeah,
it would be a vanilla bean. It'd be a vanilla bean color.
Yeah, you got to average it between the little black specks and the briars and the white vanilla color.
Okay. So if you took a vanilla bean and you blended the whole thing, including the bean,
yeah,
it would look okay. Yeah.
Rest my case.
That's what everybody thinks of when they think of vanilla bean. All right, so the last one is called Comfy Cotton Blend. And I didn't like most of the colors, if I'm being completely honest, in this particular line. But I loved this one. So I'll kind of show you up close. It's called Garden Party, Flower Garden. I'm wrong. And it is, I think that it's cotton and polyester. So 50% cotton, 50% polyester. I am not a fan of polyester or acrylic for the most part. I use it when I make baby items because obviously I want those to be washable. I used it in my grandfather's sweater for the same reason. He's 91. And I didn't want him to have to hand wash all of his garments. I felt like that was kind of inappropriate. So being able to just toss all of that in a washing machine was really important to me. But for myself, I prefer things that are sort of more natural fibers. I like the way they feel. And I also like that I'm not wearing plastic. So, advantage. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are sort of my stash expansion items. And obviously I have quite a few of each of these. So I don't think you've bought me yarn recently. So
I bought you yarn.
You did buy me yarn.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for Christmas. Mm-hmm. It was Canadian. Thank you, Canada.
Oh, I should have brought that. I'll bring that next time. So Chris bought me possum yarn, which I didn't know was a thing until the very end of last year. But they had a picture of this adorable little New Zealand possum, and actually, it was kind of maybe this isn't a funny story, but I'll tell it anyways. So That's the look I get normally when I start a story.
I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
So I got really excited because the yarn site said that they helped New Zealand forestry efforts. And so I got excited. I was like, oh, well, this must be like a possum conservatory. Like, they're helping to raise young possums and send them off to the wild. Well, it turns out, as Chris found when he was looking at the website, that New Zealand actually has a possum issue. So it was the what was being supported was not raising baby possums. It was, controlling the possum population, which are in fact pests in New Zealand. So
it's basically impossible.
Oh God, that one's for you, Ian. If you ever watch this episode. Yeah. So anyway, so I have some of their fur anyways, and it's lovely fur. So that's nice. Let's see. And then I guess next thing we'll talk about is something called Craftspiration. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what I'm thinking of doing next, or what we're thinking of doing next. We can start with you. What are you thinking of doing next?
I want to make a piano cover so that we can keep the pet hair out of the piano.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know you've never talked to me about this before.
Well, you just said we were doing Craftspiration, so that's my Craftspiration. It's essentially a scarf for the piano with some straps, maybe.
You guys ever have that moment where you ask your spouse a question and you think you know the answer, and then the answer that pops out of their mouth is completely not what you thought? Yeah, well, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'm surprised, but I think you should do that.
Whoa. I have great ideas all the time.
That's not what I meant.
Okay, that's what they thought you meant.
I wasn't surprised that it was a great idea. I was just surprised at this particular idea. You've never brought it up to me before.
Yeah, because it's a really good idea that I just came up with.
All right, well, maybe next time you guys will be seeing a piano bench cover or a piano cover, but I don't hold your breath.
It'll look a lot like a scarf with straps. So you gotta learn one skill and then figure out how you can use it in multiple ways.
Yeah, so that's coming to our podcast in a few years. I mean, I joke, but he learned this very quickly. So this is his very first project. He's doing a good job.
Thank you for the praise.
Yes. I try. Positive reinforcement and all that.
You experimenting on me again?
Always.
Oh.
So my Craftspiration, there's a couple different types of crafters, I think. There's people who have one thing at a time that they work on, and they focus all of their attention on that. And then there are people who could not be that person if they tried. And I am the latter. So I have at least 40 different projects that I could name. I'm sure there's other projects too that scattered throughout this house. And some of them are still Christmas gifts that will now be next Christmas gifts. You probably know who you are. I doubt you're watching, but if you know who you are, I'm sorry. And yeah, but that's not going to stop me from starting new projects. So this is actually my brief, terrible sketch. I'm not very good at art, but just sort of a vague idea. I really would like to make myself an entire set of clothing out of crochet. Because I think when we think of crocheting, we think of doilies or sort of, what is the word I'm looking for? Chevron blankets. I think that a lot of people don't really think about crochet being for very modern, very practical pieces. And I really want to make myself an entire outfit that I could actually wear. Like, that looks modern and comfortable, and yeah.
But will you be making it for the climate you live in, or
Yes.
the climate you one day might live in?
No, for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need some thin materials.
Well, I'm actually going to show you the materials here in a second. So this is the top. Oops. Sorry about that. So the top is actually going to be made.
I don't think they can. There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
So the top is going to be made as a sort of high V, because I do want to be able to wear it to work if I really want to. And then the bottom are going to be sort of culotte, not like the giant culottes of the 90s, but sort of more moderate culottes in sort of a dark blue color with a little bit of a waist tie there. And then I also want to do a cardigan over the top that's sort of lacy. And I'm going to make it with the same construction as the Into the Night cardigan that I showed before, but I think just a different lace pattern. So not the leaves, maybe like flowers or something like that.
Wait, pause.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about what a culotte is?
You were a child. Oh, you're a child of the 80s. That's why.
Thanks. She's not lying.
Revealing all of the secrets today.
Yeah.
So culottes were those pants that sort of flared. They're also called gaucho pants, I think. So they flare towards the bottom. They're not bell bottoms because they're big all the way down, but they're much bigger. I'm actually wearing sort of a pair right now. Yeah, but they're often sort of cut off as like capri length, basically. So they're like flared capris.
And you like that?
For this, yeah, I feel like in the right, done the correct way in the right construction, they can be very professional looking.
Cool.
Very like sleek, modern, which I'm trying to build into my wardrobe. So for the bottoms, I'm thinking that I might use this Coboo yarn that I was talking about before. So the culottes, you can actually see that, are going to be sort of a dark blue. And then for the top, I'm thinking I will do the flower garden for the top. So the speckly.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah, and I might do stripes of the magenta and the blue or not. I haven't decided.
Yes.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then I'll do that. And then the cardigan will be made out of this magenta. So that's the idea. Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So that's, hopefully you'll see that in the next probably many months. I do have a lot of other projects. But yeah, so I guess the only other thing would be the section called What's Your Problem, which is where I get to talk about something psychology related. So if you're only here for yarn stuff and for crafting, I suppose you could exit. If you are curious about something that's slightly psychology related, now's your time.
What's psychology?
Oh gosh. Are you actually asking, or
Not for me.
are you really thinking people don't know what psychology is?
Well, no. Tell me, why is psychology?
Psychology is the study of human thought, behavior, and emotion. And it is an enormous subject encompassing everything from studying things like mental health disorders, which is what people normally think of as all of psychology, which is unfortunate, to studying the biology and the chemistry of the brain. There's industrial organizational psychologists who study how people behave at work. There's developmental psychology, which studies how people change in all of those different domains as they get older. There's all sorts of different fields of psychology. My personal field is cognitive psychology, which studies how people think and the mechanisms behind how they think, and how people remember, how they learn, all that sort of thing. So inner processes, basically. So have I ever told you the story, my love, of Cortine and Wood?
Mm-mm.
All right. So this is one of my favorite stories, actually. I have many. I haven't bored him with this one yet, though, so that'll be good. You'll get to see him get bored by it in real time. So we have the researcher is named, I think it was Albert. Was it Albert? His first name's irrelevant. Anyway, I think it was Albert Cortine, and he was a researcher at University of British Columbia. He actually started as an English naval officer, I think, and worked in Scotland for a long time at the University of Edinburgh, I think. But anyways, one of his most famous studies is also one of his most controversial. This was back before we had, he sort of slipped it in there right as we were kind of coming up with our ethical code. And he was operating at a time when there was one model of how we pay attention to things. So for a long time, there was something called Broadbent's model of attention. I'm not going to go into too much detail there because I can already feel myself losing many people. But the idea was that when we pay attention to things, the things that we don't pay attention to, we immediately lose from our brains. So if you're paying attention to me right now, you've already lost anything else that's going on in your environment and that you're not paying attention to. So they didn't agree with this, and they came up with sort of a clever way of testing it. There was something called the dichotic listening task, and that is essentially when you give somebody two streams of information. So I give somebody headphones, like I put headphones on Chris, and in one ear I play the Declaration of Independence, and in the other ear I have a recording of Harry Potter, let's say. And then I tell Chris to listen to the Declaration of Independence and ignore Harry Potter. And the way that I know he does this is he shadows, so he repeats the Declaration of Independence as he hears it in that one ear. So you have these two streams of information. You have one stream that you're actually paying attention to and one stream that you're ignoring. So for a long time, they would test, right? And they would test the stream of information that was ignored later. And they would find that people would not remember anything that they weren't paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And so the general idea was people forget immediately anything they don't pay attention to. Well, Courtine and Wood had this brilliant idea. They're like, well, what if we just don't remember it? Because there's all this fascinating bits of attention that happen before we ever get to memory. Mm-hmm. And so they played a bunch of different words to people. And for city names, so they had a bunch of different cities. Every time somebody heard a city, they shocked them. So they would play, it would be a story. And every time they'd get to like Alberta, it'd be like, zzz. And this wasn't like a crazy shock, nobody was getting electrocuted, but it was like enough to for somebody to remember it. And so they would do that for a while until somebody was conditioned to remember this link between the city name and the shocking. If you're not familiar with conditioning, I'm sure I'll bring it up in the future. And so then they went ahead and did the same thing with the same task. And so in one ear, in the attended ear, it would just be a normal Declaration of Independence. And in the ignored ear, it was a bunch of different, it was a story, but sprinkled throughout the story were the names of those cities in the ear that they're ignoring. And they would then test their GSR, so their galvanic skin response. So basically, how nervous they were getting or how much they were responding. And they found that even though they couldn't remember anything that they were hearing in this ear, they were still responding. So their heart rate went up and their response went up whenever they'd hear these city words in their ignored ear. So clearly, when we shock people, they remember it. What I like to remember about this study is that they never deconditioned them, so somewhere out there may be some poor man or woman who every time they hear Alberta is a little bit triggered and doesn't know why. So.
Oh.
Psychology. So, yeah. I mean, was it ethical? I don't know. Chris is shaking his head. He knows. I mean... No one was being electrocuted, right? I don't know. I mean, if there's somebody out there who screams a little bit inside every time they hear Toronto, I guess that's not very ethical. But we don't have any proof of that, so.
Wow. Never watch the news ever again.
So that is...
I just don't like the news. I don't know why.
So that's my episode of What's Your Problem for today. So you're welcome. Now you have a little bit more information in your brain about another way that psychologists screwed with the general public and got away with it. There's many ways. But now we just do it more secretly, so.
Now, who are those psychologists that work at Facebook and YouTube and make me want to keep watching with the algorithm?
Those are probably cognitive psychologists, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great job.
Well, you're welcome.
Just one more click.
You're welcome. So that's kind of any parting words of wisdom, my love? This will be the section, Chris's words of wisdom.
Be kind to one another.
Oh.
Like Canadians do to basically everybody else. Be like that.
Don't shock people, unlike the Canadian who did that research.
Yep.
Do the opposite of what that Canadian psychologist did.
One mistake was made.
Anyways, I think we're devolving, so we'll let you go. But yeah, this was our pilot podcast. I enjoyed myself, so maybe we'll come back. I don't know if anybody will watch, but yeah.
Don't forget to like us and hit that subscribe button.
Oh God, and don't shock anybody. All right, bye. Let's see.
Participation. I think I got something weird going on right here at the edge, though.
Let's see.
'Cause I'm holding on to like 2 rows ago.
We might have to rip a row out.
No, we are not going to do that. We are going to just pull all the way through and keep it moving. But I've seen them in like New York and
This
Vermont.
is not going to make it into the podcast.